Hello everyone. So today we'll be talking about mocking of services on the UI. So you would have come across a scenario wherein you are assigned a user story where you have to work on the UI part and the backend developer works actually on the service end. So probably the backend developer might be developing the service and you are assigned a UI task wherein you have to develop the UI in parallel. So in that case, what you usually do is you get the JSON from the backend developer, get this JSON and put it in the component, hardcode this JSON till the time the service is ready, and then once the service is ready, you just plug and play, right? So here we can go one step ahead. Here, instead of putting the JSON in the component itself, we can actually put the JSON in a JSON file separately, which resides within the UI repo. Okay. So we'll see that today and how actually we do it. One more advantage is you can use the same, the HTTP get or post endpoint. And what we'll be doing is we'll be intercepting this service call, and we'll make sure that instead of calling the actual HTTP endpoint, we'll return it through the JSON itself. So there are various ways to intercept the network calls. That is what we'll see today. Okay. So if you see the screen, there is a table of an employee list, right? Wherein you see the first name, last name, and other values. So if I just open the developer tools here, so here if I refresh the screen, you see there's a contacts get API which is actually getting called, right? So which is returning the whole employee list. So now till the time this is ready, what we can do is we can mock, we can return a mock JSON from the UI repo itself. And how you will do it is we'll see it in some time. Okay, so let's get started on that. All right, so what we'll do first up is we'll go through the code. There's an assets folder, and within the assets folder we'll create our JSON file. Let's name it contacts.json. Okay, now let's go to the response. Okay, so let me go to the developer tools, go to the network, refresh the screen, go to the contacts API, take the response from this. Okay, now we need to paste this response in our JSON file, right? So we have put it in the contacts.json. Now what we'll do is secondly we'll have to create our interceptor. As I said, the network calls that go through our app, those calls will be intercepted, and we have to intercept it in such a way that we need to, whenever our slash contacts get API is called, we need to return this JSON. All right. So within the assets, we'll create another file called as the web request interceptor dot interceptor dot ts, right? Then let's name this class web request interceptor. All right. Or this should be export. Okay. Now we need to create so as this is a class, we need to create an object out of this class, right? So if we go to environment.ts file, we need to say web request interceptor equal to new web request interceptor, right? So it automatically imports. Now, once the class is created, what we'll do is we'll create a mock response array here, which will be of type any. So this will be, whatever services you want to mock, whether it's an HTTP get, post, or delete call, which is within the app, or if there are service calls within, third-party widgets or the libraries that you are using in your app. So all the service calls that go through our app can be actually mocked here. So our app actually calls the slash contacts get API, right? So we'll copy this and we'll say slash, whenever it goes to slash contacts, it should actually take the response from asset slash contacts dot json. All right. So if we check our contacts dot json, this is the response that we have, right? All right. So after this, we can also define a function called as the mock response. All right. So this takes in a URL, which will be of type string, and it will also respond a string value. All right. So what we can check is for constant key in mock response array, we need to check two things. One is if the key is present, I mean the URL that we are actually on, or whenever we route to /contacts, that should be actually part of the mock response array, right? So we need to check if the URL that we'll be sending is index of key is not equal to -1. Okay, if that's the case, we need to return this dot mock response array. Then we need to return it in this format. We need to actually return the value, right? After this, we can create another function called as is localhost. So this mocking part should happen only in our localhost environments. So what we can do is we can check whether we are in our local environment by using the window variable, window.location location dot hostname or hostname, right? If it's equal to localhost, all right. So if it's a localhost environment, it will return true. Okay, we can also define a constructor here. So within the constructor, there is some JavaScript that is, that is standard across all Angular apps, and I have it here in this file. So you can directly copy paste this function here. All right. So what we are doing is all the XHR call that goes through our app, it will be intercepted. And let's say now what we are doing is here, we are checking if the mock response returns something or no. Okay. If the mock response is returning something, then we are actually calling the open.call and we are passing the response here. So that, I mean, what this will do is it will return the JSON that we have in assets/contacts.json. Okay, if it matches. If the response does not match, or if it's undefined, it will actually call the actual API. Okay. Okay, then now let's check out our app. If I go back now, if I refresh the screen, okay, let me see if ngserve is working. Okay, so that's compiled successfully. Now if I check the inspect and go to network calls, if I refresh the screen, okay, there's a debugger which I'll remove. So if I go to network, yeah, so we are actually returning from a contacts.json which is present in our assets folder, right? That we just created. So now previously we were calling the actual API. Now we have actually mocked the whole response and we are returning it from a JSON file, right? So the way you check it is it will actually navigate to assets/contacts.json, all right? And the response pretty much remains the same. So this way you can continue your work on UI, and there's no dependency on the backend. I mean, they can work parallelly on their part, and you can simultaneously work on your part. So this is one way to mock the whole response and continue your work without actually having to depend on the backend developer. Also, one more advantage that I see is if you are using a third-party library or if you are using a widget, that's from a different repo. Sometimes you import certain modules, right, and the widget actually internally calls a lot of API calls. So in a local environment, those API calls might fail, but in case you use this web interceptor, so in that case most of the calls are intercepted correctly, and you can define the JSON here, right? All right, so that's it. I mean, from this video, I mean, if you like the video, then do give it a like, do share, and do subscribe. Thank you, everyone.